What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of my podcast dedicated to everything spooky. This is the scary, strange, and paranormal. True Tales from Murray and J08. True Tales from Sean. You know, when I started planning this episode, the show out, the series out, the reason why I wanted to do this series was to talk about this episode, this topic, sleep paralysis. I think this is going to wind up being one of my favorite episodes that I record for this podcast because I have so much to talk about, and this is so personal and near and dear to me because I don't know if you guys know what sleep paralysis is, but you'll know after you watch this show because I'm going to give you a background story of it. But I lived it. I lived it in the worst way possible. I could write a book about it. And the worst scenarios that you could read on the internet of sleep paralysis, because there are tons. We're going to look at a few. There are tons of websites and articles about sleep paralysis. I've lived the best of them. I'm going to tell you something right now. Guys, there is nothing more scary than sleep paralysis. I don't care what you've witnessed in your life, because basically what it is it's the real, true feeling of fear. If you could see fear in person, like if you wanted to know what fear looked like and felt as it comes over your body, it's it's sleep paralysis. Now, there are two things about sleep paralysis, okay? The two things is that there is a scientific doctor perspective of it. Of course, right? Everything has to be. And then there is the demon paranormal part of it. Which part you lie on is completely up to you. Now, naturally, everybody's going to say the scientific doctor part. And that's perfectly fine, and you may 100% be right. Because they're still studying this, and they really don't know everything about it. And there's colleges that are actually studying this, and scientists and doctors. This is a serious illness. Or is it? Is the question. I've lived it. And you could put me in a room with people with sleep paralysis and I could make their heads spin like The Exorcist. Because I've gotten the worst of it. I've seen it all. Whatever you read on the internet, I've had. The interesting thing is that everybody has almost the same thing and experienced the same thing. I've actually experienced some things also that people didn't know about. When I was suffering with sleep paralysis, and I'm talking suffering where people do not sleep. You ever watch the movie Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street? How would you like to be so terrified where you don't want to fall asleep? There's celebrities. I think Sheryl Crow, the singer, Jennifer Aniston, many people, if you read their biographies and read about them, suffer from this. I'm talking suffer where they almost want to commit suicide. They never sleep. They have to take sedatives. This is no joke. This is fucking nasty shit. Okay? It's sheer, pure fear. It's not a dream. It's not a nightmare. Again, is it scientific? Is it medical? Well, you be the judge after we look at some, you know, research. They still really don't know. You know, you bring it up to doctors and they look at you like you're crazy, but they're the ones supposedly that do all the research, right? There are sleep experts that study in it. Now, me, of course, because of what I do here and what I'm into, I'm more on the paranormal side, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's things that I've done and there's things that I've researched and tried that have reactions that I don't think science would do. I've done things that I only think religiously and demonically and spiritually would have an effect. I don't think scientifically what I've done would have this effect. See, I've had it so much where I've actually learned to almost live with it and to counter it and to interact with these demons. Sleep paralysis is when you fall asleep, okay? You are in what they call a REM sleep, which is like half asleep and half awake, where you are, it's not a dream, or so they say, or so they don't say, where you are fully aware of your surroundings, but you can't move. You're paralyzed. You know, you ever notice, like, you ever fall asleep and you feel like you're falling off the couch or falling off the bed and you jolt like that? It's almost like that, but you're caught in between that. And the thing is that you have your eyes open. You see your surroundings. You're where you lay down. It's not like a dream where you're off in a faraway land or you're in another country or you're on a boat or a yacht or on an island. You're in your bed or wherever you had fell asleep. You're there, fully awake, but you can't move. The scary part of it is that you have something feeding and feasting off of you, of your fear, because it knows you're paralyzed. And it's usually a demon, a devil. It's usually a black figure that you can't make out. Now, if you read about it, they call it the Old Hag Syndrome. It's a woman, an old woman that pushes down above your chest and pushes on you like a weight. I've had this. For me, my sleep paralysis experience is a black figure. Tall, skinny black figure. I've even had it where it was animals. I've had it also where it's sound. Doors shutting. Nails scratching like on a chalkboard. Hauntingly chanting laughs. Whatever it could do to scare me because it knew I couldn't move. But the fear that you get from this, they say scientifically, they say they studied it. They put people like under like a test and they observed them during sleep paralysis. They've watched people under a camera. They say that it only lasts a few minutes, but when you're having it, it feels like it lasts an eternity. I've had it where I couldn't move and I had raccoons scratching at my face with the black figure on the foot of my bed. And the reason why that I feel that it's paranormal is just certain things that I take notice of. It's very intelligent. Like face expressions. The way it moves its body. And certain things that I say and do. And how it reacted to it. Now, when you have sleep paralysis, you can't move, but you also can't talk or scream. I've trained myself where I'm able to get words out, at least in my head. And I talked to a couple people, religious people, but I've also talked to somebody that's very, very into this, almost like a demonologist. And she told me, she said to me, what you do is you say like a prayer. You say a prayer to piss it off, because it's a demon, it's evil. You know, like um any prayer that you would like to say. You read something off the Bible, like a scripture or something. And certain things that you say, see what it does. See if it has a reaction. But the problem is that sleep paralysis, you can't move or talk, so you got to try to somehow get it out. Even if you think it in your head, let the demon know you're trying to do stuff. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, but this is why I truthfully believe it's something else other than scientifically, because medically, because the way that this thing violently reacted, I don't know. Medically, I'm thinking that everybody would have the exact same experience, which a lot of them do. But when I took it to the next step, I learned a lot of things about this thing, whatever it is. And it always seems to be when I'm on my back, I'm able to fight it by not sleeping on my back anymore. And after I had a stroke, well, I'm going to get to something else in a minute too that's very, very powerful. After I had a stroke, I sleep mostly on my stomach and on my sides. So I avoid my back anyway now. My back seems to trigger it completely. And I had a sister that was handicapped that passed away in 2011. She had cerebral palsy, and she was in the hospital with a trach. She couldn't breathe or eat. She went downhill very quickly. And after she passed away, since she passed away, I've never, ever had sleep paralysis since, because I think she's on the other side like a guardian angel, and she's protecting me, like keeping the demons away. Because that's another thing that I did one time having sleep paralysis was I talked about, loved ones passed away, like, that had passed away. And when I mentioned them, it wanted nothing to do with me. Now, one of the things that you'll read about people's experiences is that sleep paralysis, there's no way to get rid of the demon. Once it triggers, and you'll know what triggers because you'll feel it. You'll feel the fear come over you. And once it does that, you have to lay down and you have to just deal with it. There's no way out of it. You can't get out of it. It's almost like a coma. You can't break it. It's very, very rare that you can. Maybe if you have very early signs of it, you could break it. But it's very hard to break. Once it starts, you have to just let it go. And it usually follows the fear, the feeling. You'll see him. And it's fucking bad. It's nasty. It's scary. It's not so much also what you see. It's just knowing that you can't move and it's feasting off of you. Sometimes it'll come up to you like this. It's feeding on your fear, and it knows you can't move, and it's like living off of it. It's like loving it. I had it one time where it went like this. Now I'm going to tell you something else. You're going to think I'm crazy, right? I'm a nut job. I'm going to tell you something. Another thing why I think it's something else other than medical, why I think it's paranormal or demonic, is that this thing, okay, seems like it's more afraid of me than I am of it. In other words to say, it seems to me like it's trying to also learn about me. Like, it puts us under a sleep paralysis. A lot of people believe alien abduction, But it puts us under the sleep paralysis because it's studying us. Because of the way that it looks at me, and you could see it trying to figure me out from a distance. It's very, very interested in me. Here's what I did one time. This girl that I know told me to do this. It was standing at the foot of my bed and it was going like this to me. It's studying me. It's trying to figure me out as much as I was trying to figure it out. And I said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no evil. I was doing the prayer, that prayer. And I'll never forget it. He went like this and he tilted his head like a dog. You ever notice when you talk to a dog, it tries to understand you, it goes like this? Like when you're speaking to a dog or teaching it a trick, that's what this thing did to me. It tilted its head like this. Like in shock, and it backed up and it took off. It wanted nothing to do with the prayer. One time it was crawling on my bed up to my face, but it wasn't doing anything to me. It was just staring at my face. It was trying to feel my face. Very interested. And I started saying something like, in the name of Christ on the cross. And then it went like, I'll never forget, it went its shoulders back and it went like this. And it went like this on the bed and it backed up slowly. And then once it was off the bed, it ran. It wanted nothing to do with like prayer. That's why I honestly think it is something demonic, and because if it was medically involved or something with the brain, I don't think that would matter, right? I'll tell you something else that's very intelligent. One time I was sleeping in the brown living room here. I had just fell asleep. We had the TV set up at the time. My grandmother was visiting. This is before she passed away. My grandmother was upstairs. She was visiting. I was laying down on the couch and I had dozed off on my back and sleep paralysis. But here's what happened. I felt it. I said, oh, shit, it's too late. I can't get out of it. The sleep paralysis came over me. The fucking thing was walking down the stairs. And I said, you son of a bitch. But I must have been in the sleep paralysis. I must have been moaning, like crying, like, like to help get me up. My mother heard me upstairs and she said to my grandmother, is that Sean? Is he having like a low sugar? Because I'm diabetic. She was getting ready to, because we have gates because of the dog, so the dog don't go in certain areas of the house. And the kids, so we had the gate up. My mom is opening the gate and getting ready to come downstairs to check on me. The demon thing was at the end of the steps and was looking up at her and went like this and looked at me and took off. It wanted nothing to do with her. Of course, she didn't see it. But she woke me up and I did get up. And she says, are you all right? And I says, yeah, I was having sleep paralysis. And she says, oh my God. She says, did you have it full-fledged? Like, did you see the thing? And I says, yeah, but when you came down the stairs, you scared it away. And it looked right at her and wanted nothing to do with her. It only wanted, like, me. All I could tell you is that I don't really know what it is. All I could tell you is that it's extremely, extremely frightful. I'm going to jump to the desktop, and then we're going to get to a user comment. So here is the definition from Google of sleep paralysis. It is a state during waking up or falling asleep in which a person is aware but unable to move or speak. During an episode, one may hallucinate, hear, feel, or see things that are not there, which often results in fear. Episodes generally last less than a couple of minutes. What triggers? Not enough research has been done on the subject to know exactly what causes sleep paralysis. However, it seems to be associated with sleep deprivation, fatigue, and severe stress, but also serious mental conditions such as post traumatic stress syndrome, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. See, that's the medical aspect of it. But if you read, there's millions of people that have it. Sleep paralysis. What was that thing in my room? You find yourself in a nightmarish reality and there's no way out. Although it can feel like an eternity, sleep paralysis only lasts a few seconds to a few minutes. It isn't harmful in itself, but can be very distressing while it lasts. All the symptoms I had are common. You can't move, but you can see clearly and breathe normally. You hallucinate. Actually, three different types of hallucinations can occur. Intruder hallucinations, like the one I had, are typical. So-called incubus hallucinations involve a sense of pressure on the chest or the feeling of being suffocated. Or the third creates an out-of-body sensation. Then here's another website. These are people, the sleep paralysis, the devil, the ghost, and the old hag. Just today, around 6 in the morning, I just heard an old lady crying really loud in my right ear. Like the demon itself, I had a vision of wearing all black like a nun. The more or less I tried to ignore the old lady crying in my right ear, the more she would cry more loudly like the demon itself, and I was shaking heavily, dead asleep, couldn't wake up, couldn't talk or scream out loud. Absolutely right. Do not sleep on your back for any reason. See, so somehow that triggers it. My sleep paralysis demon has monkey teeth and black feathers. He sits at the foot of my bed and smiles. See what I'm saying? I like to read people's experiences. I'm gonna read something real quick from Carl Becker, and we're gonna call it an episode. But I want to hear your comments, and also make sure you share your stories to be featured on here, and tell me if you guys ever had sleep paralysis. I'm real interested to know that. Carl Becker. He actually private DM'd me this on Twitter. My old house was haunted. We heard so many strange things through the years. One of the reasons why I think my parents put it up for sale, but never told me in fear that I would be afraid of being in my own room. Weird creaking up and down the hallway at night, lights would always go in and out, and faucet sinks would turn on. My father and mother would sometimes think it was me. I was always afraid to fall asleep in my bedroom, as I always thought I heard whispering throughout the night. Definitely glad I don't live in that house and feel sorry for whoever lives there now. I do know the house was very old, and there were many cemeteries near it. Thanks for what you do. I am very appreciative, and I don't think enough people tell you and just use you for your giveaways. I am appreciative and have been a longtime subscriber since 2008, and love watching your content and gameplay and unboxings, not just the giveaways. Keep up this series, as it has become one of my favorites. Wow. Thank you so much, Carl. Yeah, I know you've been around forever. That's a great story. I'm gonna have an episode dedicated on haunted houses and strange abandoned buildings and stuff like that. We have one that's actually local to here, but I've had experiences very similar to that in my grandmother's old house, especially with the faucets where you would actually hear them turn on. Light switches going on, but actually hear them flicker up. Lots of stuff, lots of crazy stuff. That's a great story, Carl. Thank you so much for sharing. Man, haunted houses. That would be a great episode dedicated just to that. Um, yeah, it's definitely common with older houses. I know older Victorian houses. Oh man, I could tell you a story. Oh, I could tell you a crazy story about a haunted house. I actually been in one and witnessed some crazy shit. And the owner was like, "Oh, it's nothing to us. We live it. It's every day we see stuff." But it was shocking to me. Um, so yeah, very common, very I hear it all the time. Very interesting to what you have to say about that. And good thing you moved out of there. Good thing you're out of there. And like, yeah, I agree with you. I feel sorry for the guy that's in there now. A lot of times you see that, some houses are hardly ever lived in. You watch these shows on TV, on like the Travel Channel, and they never tell the new owners that they're haunted, and they find out later and they want to move out. Some of them some of them are possessed. I mean, beyond haunted. I think that, like what they call poltergeist hauntings, which are really bad. I knew a friend that bought a house. It was on an Indian burial ground. It was really haunted. We're gonna get to that in a future episode. Take care, guys. Hope to see you again soon. Be well, be safe, stay scary, and I'll see you on the next video.